So as we saw, a free market system and a command system, they both come with pretty big drawbacks. And so most economies in the world, they run on a mix of both systems. They try to take the best characteristics of both, kind of mix them up, and it's called a mixed economy. And so a mixed economy, some of the characteristics of it, you're going to see a lot of the same characteristics that I had up with a free market system, but then I'm going to add a couple of extra ones as well. So in a mixed economy, like a free market, most resources are owned by the private sector. Okay, so there's a freedom of choice and enterprise. So on one hand, consumers are free to maximize their utility, and then producers maximize profit. And then both of these parties are doing this through their self-interests. Okay, so most economic activity is going to be determined with supply versus demand. And because of this, there's going to be also competition in the market. There's going to be innovation. Another word you might see is specialization. Most firms are going to be able to maximize their profit with specialization, so really meeting the demands of the consumers. The more specialized you are, usually, the more you're meeting that, the more utility you're providing for consumers. So that's another word you might see come up when they're describing a mixed economy. Okay, so just basically a lot of the same characteristics from a free market. And notice that those drawbacks of a command system are not in this market because everyone's working with their through their self-interest. So there's more incentives because everyone's free to maximize their utility or maximize their profit if they're a producer. So a producer might have incentives to supply more of a product, produce more of a product, if there's that demand for the product. Now, there is government involvement, right? It's not like there's no government involvement like there was in a free market. So government, as in a free market, they protect private property, enforce contracts, but they also collect tax. So it's not like there's low tax, and it's not like all of the income is taxed in a command system. A portion of everyone's income is taxed to help in allocating resources. So if there's a fire, if someone's house catches fire, it's going to be put out. It's going to be taken care of with that tax money versus, as we explained in a free market, that might not happen because those people, no one's forced to buy anything, and the people that are living in a house that catches fire, if they didn't buy any fire insurance, well then who's going to put out the fire, right? In a mixed economy, you don't got to worry about that because government is collecting some tax from the income and that helps in allocating resources. So there's Another sub point here is there's more long-term planning. Right, so those are some of the characteristics of a mixed economy, and as I mentioned, most economies in the world are a mixed economy. Very few economies are a command system or just a pure free market system. Now, as I've mentioned, your textbook or your professor might have different characteristics, or it might be presented in a certain order. So right here I wrote competition, but maybe your prof expects you to know certain subheadings that are going to be under competition. And for you to get full marks on a test, they might want you to know their specific subheadings, right? So all of this can be arranged in different formats, so you're going to have to adjust accordingly to your professor, to your textbook, but you're going to see generally the same types of descriptions that I had in these last couple of videos for a free market system, a command system, and a mixed economy. Also, there might be different names. So instead of a free market system, you might see it called pure capitalism. Instead of a mixed economy, you might see a market system. So again, you just have to adjust accordingly. Another system actually that I didn't talk about is a traditional economic system. And that's based on traditions and customs and bartering. So instead of giving money and getting a good or service, it's usually one person's giving a good or service to receive another good or service. That's what a bartering transaction is. But there's very few of those types of systems that exist in the world. So I didn't even bother mentioning it, but you might see it come up in textbooks as well. But the three main ones are free market, command, and mixed.